10,000 years, I have served as warden of the Barrow prisons. In that time, only one has escaped, and you will not be the second. Abandon hope, for I am Maiev Shadowsong, and none shall flee my grasp.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the StarLadder and StarSeries Season 3. I'm Noxious, and with me on the casting desk is Lothar. Are you still in Poland, or?
Yeah, I'm in my home right now.
He's back in Poland, that's right. So we've got 4 more matches for you guys today. Next up on the playing desk is going to be World Champion Pavel against SuperJJ. So JJ is a, we saw him play last time. A few slip-ups on the devolved, account, but overall still a player that takes the game as seriously as he can. He's a lot less involved these days than he's been before, and it kind of shows, when you see him play, that he's not as adamant about making the perfect play. And his lineup is quite old, so he's suffering and also benefiting from it in a way because Purified Priest is among those decks.
Yeah, the Purified Priest is kind of nuts in that metagame that we have here in this tournament because it's strictly the best deck against J-Druid, which, fortunately for him, Pavel has in his lineup. And also, the other thing that is not really the best for JJ is the fact that he runs a Merc Rogue instead of the Quest Rogue, and his Shaman is kind of let's say, iffy. It's not really well balanced against today's metagame. It's usually when JJ was losing the games, it was because of the Shaman. He was just strictly, the worst deck in his lineup, and that was definitely a problem. When he had a chance to win the game, he has let's say he didn't have all the information about the synergies in the deck, and he played Devolve on the frog that did have the buffs on it, and that did cost him the game in the last match, and also did get him to the top of Reddit. So that's always something.
With jokes, of course, about his transition over to Gwent.
Yes,
you couldn't laugh about it without mentioning that, right?
Of course. But Pavel here also has a very different lineup from the aggro players that we had in this tournament. He spawns a Taunt Warrior, a more controlish Paladin, although it's not as controlish as JJ is, and this is the reason why it got banned, because double equality is actually making a problem for Pavel here, especially with the Jade Druid and with the Taunt Warrior. So
right.
Definitely
I
good
think,
ban.
The Taunt Warrior is definitely going to suffer if it runs into that Paladin. It's not a matchup Warrior ever wants to run into. It's kind of interesting because the new Paladin plays a lot like the old Shaman. That you just kind of hero power pass. Eventually you get a board that they can't handle. They're forced to use their AoE very inefficiently. And then in this case, it's even worse for the Warrior because that hero power has very little chance of landing where it has to. So that's definitely a favorite matchup for the mid-range Paladin, which explains Pavel's ban. Super solid. And now we see JJ on the Miracle Rogue. And it's interesting because on the back of, the America's Championship we had just close out, yesterday, we had Muzzy mention that he thought Rogue should not always be Quest Rogue. Most players are bringing Quest Rogue to events. They're swearing by it. But he thinks a lot more lineups should be considering Miracle Rogue in terms of win rates. He says it should do better.
I find that interesting because it's a deck. It has the same weakness, right? It loses to typical aggro decks like Aggro Druid or Pirate Warrior. But at the same time, those decks, at least one, you can always ban when you play a Rogue. And when you play a Quest Rogue, you do probably the same. The problem with Rogue in general is that in Conquest, they can be abused by an entire lineup that is just aggro. And that's something that might convince players to not play Rogue at all in their lineups, right? And that can be a strategy when it comes to the Conquest lineups. It's different in the last Euro standing, but all the Blizzard official tournaments are, in the other viable format.
There's many formats, but mostly is going to be Conquest, and so Rogue tends to suffer. That's probably the reason why I think Miracle Rogue is so good in many people's eyes, is because it actually doesn't lose that... Whoa, that's an interesting card. It doesn't lose that badly to, non-hyper aggro decks, right? So if it runs into like a mid-range Paladin or something, it'll do a little bit better in those cases. So the Miracle Rogue has a little bit more game against... some aggressive decks. Let's say, for instance, we look at Hunter, right? It's a type of class, even though you don't see much of it, it's a type of class that Crystal Rogue will suffer against, but Miracle Rogue will be good against. While if you're a good Miracle Rogue player, you probably still have your good matchups. You still beat J Druid, you still beat Controlled Paladin, that just doesn't change all that much. So you're really going to be weaker against the hyper aggro decks, if anything. Or just as weak, that is.
Yep. That is true, but look at that. Jade Blossom into Aya. That's kind of sweet. You just got 3 Jades out of nowhere.
I'll take those. Thanks, Swashbuckler and Hallucination. Can't fight with that. And Pavel's looking at a kind of awkward hand. I mean, he picks up a 4-drop to go to Hero Power, but that doesn't generate a ton of pressure just yet. There is really little to follow this up with, aside from removal plays. I wouldn't be surprised to just see JJ get his own Jade plan underway.
Yeah, why not?
This seems really good. You're playing for board, I'm playing for board. I get my triple Jade package. How about that? Pavel's
that
face.
nod. It's like, yeah. Fortunately for JJ, Pavel this time is not playing a mage, so there's no chance of getting polymorph.
That was a very amusing nod by Pavel. Yeah, of course he would get 3 Jades. Of course. Maybe he was nodding because he looked at the Jade Blossom and he thought, that's kind of uncharacteristic of a rogue play. It doesn't go, and that's not what the rogue usually wants to do with their turn. So maybe he got another Jade card with that Swashbuckler. Maybe that's what he was thinking. He thought Swashbuckler had to have given extra Jade stuff. Well,
but it's the the situation on the board is actually pretty interesting, because now JJ is in a spot when he needs to decide how does he want to develop the game. He has an option to get back on the board with Eviscerate, which is a tempo play. The Petals as well can give him a small boost. In this situation, they can help him with cleaning up the Jade Spirits, and the 1 Jade Spirit enable the Eviscerate at the same time if he wants to still keep the spells in his hand for better synergy with top deck Auctioneer. Then the Dagger is a better option, but he pays with his health in exchange. But at the same time, the health as a resource is not really that important in this particular matchup, because at some point you will lose, not to because you did get 2 or 3 additional damage. It's just because there's a huge Jade Golem that will just swing for 10 or something like that to your face, and it doesn't really matter how much damage did you get before. So I like the decision of getting just on board with the minions that you have and just using your health as a resource, because that puts Pavel in a position when he needs to reevaluate the same position. As
yeah,
JJ
you're basically asking him to answer the board the same way that you just did. And SuperJJ's play is also playing very well with Auctioneer, right? If you pick up Auctioneer, suddenly you go off. You pick up an Edwin, you just go insane. And the big upside is that because he's got the 2 Petals, even if he doesn't pick that big payoff card like Edwin and Auctioneer, he still has the 1 damage residuals to finish off the 3 health minions on board if those choose to take value trades. So extremely well done by JJ here, leaving a lot of avenues open and putting some damage on that Druid's face for the time being. Quite like that.
Correct. He also has the synergy with the Archangel. Unfortunately, even if he top decks the Auctioneer next turn, he's not able to play Edwin alongside it.
Yeah.
Because he will be lacking mana, but still, that would be like the best possible draw. Although, we can argue that if he just top decks Edwin,
Just
that's
plays
pretty
it, yeah.
sweet as well, right? Because you can just play the entire hand, and that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to just see him jam Edwin if he picks it up, and that's another coin.
My God.
Yikes. We're going to be playing a 7-mana Giant here. It doesn't make you too unhappy because you get the value trade into the 2-1 with the Dagger. And suddenly you're the one with the 8-8 and they're the ones with a Druid hand, which means they're probably not going to be able to answer your guy with a single card.
Problematic cards here in this situation would be, of course, Behemoth, Aya, because those cards are recurring problems for JJ, so he would stop the bleeding with the 8/8 and still get something on the board.
Oh, that's convenient. I was
That
gonna
is
say
really
this turn's
convenient.
looking pretty tough for JJ because he's got no removal, very few pieces left in the deck that literally kill a 5/5 on their own. But that Razor Petal into Dagger into Vile Spine lets him kill the Auctioneer, lets him kill the 5/5, and put himself ahead on board once again.
And that is super important for JJ because what he also has in back in his mind is that if he loses to Jade Druid, that means that a Purify Priest loses his best matchup as well. And that might cost him, like, you know, a 0-2 deficit. That's pretty brutal when you think about it.
And JJ is going to be struggling going forward without the Auctioneer or the Edwin. And I'm saying Edwin just as a token acknowledgement that it's still an okay card when you put 3 spells into it. But an 8/8 is not enough on its own to handle the strength of these Jade Golems. So JJ is really looking for Auctioneer. Okay, you know what? We can just keep playing Vile Spines for days. I get it. I get it.
That is convenient, but still doesn't really answer all the problems because they will be spiraling out. Like every single card draw for Pavel is most likely giving him insane value. The only bad cards are Innervates. That's about it. Wild Growth, it's fine. You will get another card out of the deck. Jade Blossom gives you a 7/7. Still fine. What else? That is like super bad.
Oh, I don't think there's anything. Maybe like a Feral Rage that does very little. I mean, at this point, it only kills a 3/4. It's not that amazing. So if he's seen 2 of them, he's basically on only live draws, barring the Innervates. And that's so minimal. And that's one of them. There you go.
And he used one already, so that was kind of lucky. And a Wild Growth. Well, at least they will cancel them out, like each other. And he will be able still to top deck a Behemoth and play it, or an Aya. But he gets Jade Blossom, so it's still not terrible. The 7/7 appears on the board, and yeah, and you still have a taunt.
JJ's on the response side of the game here. He's gonna need to pick up that Auctioneer off the draw, and I honestly don't think there's anything else in his deck that he wants to see, barring maybe a Swashbuckler Miracle. Innervate, Hero Power, I mean, that's about as good as you can make it. You're setting up lethal for the next turn. If your minions survive, if you pick up 3 damage off the draw. JJ's going to be forced to double trade. And the Swashbuckler,
that might give him
win
something.
This game? Can we win this?
Savage Roar. Well, that allows a trade with one of these Vilespan Slayers. That's something.
Clear. He can clear.
Yeah, but he takes 7 damage in the process, and he will be at 4 HP. A swipe.
That's why
Kills him, but that's about it. And a second
for
for
4 turns, I guess. Could he just choose to close out the game? I think with Cold Blood in the deck, maybe you just go face and ignore this 7/7. Because, I mean, you need to end the game. And if you go Auctioneer and you pick up a Cold Blood with those coins, that might be the best out you have to win. Because going for that 7/7 seems like you're relying on a 1/1 to carry you. You know, and I don't want to be pessimistic, but I'm not sure how often that works out.
The only problem is that Eviscerate doesn't really do much because it's still one-off. So, but I agree with you. Having the option to finish up the game next turn is the best possible conclusion here. So let's see what will happen for Pavel. Does he get the Feral Rage or nope? But he gets 1 armor.
And denies 2 mana from his opponent for what it's worth. Next turn, sometimes these little things matter, and right now Pavel might be playing super safe because he sees that his only way to lose is to lose to Cold Blood, and by preventing that is going to give himself an out. And now JJ will find absolute air, still no Auctioneer, and Miracle Rogue will do what it does best, lose itself the game by drawing useless spells when it matters the most.
Well, to be fair, all those newer versions of Miracle Rogue, they don't play so much cycle as they did before. So there's a chance you will just not see the Gazetan in the entire game because we don't have Azure Drakes anymore. We don't have Fan of Knives. We don't have Shivs. We don't have... what else was there that did get you a cantrip or at least a card draw?
Well, some people used to run like the Loot Hoarder package for a time. Azure Drake used to exist back in the day, and those were pretty big deals. But it's a very different Miracle Rogue we have now. It's more about value generation with Burglar and Hallucination. So you can't trip less, you draw less of your deck, but you also generate more cards. So the Auctioneer, though, is as explosive as ever. You know, with Counterfeit Coin, sure, you lost Tomb Pillager, but at the end of the day, since you're generating cards with Hallucination, that can help you catch up in many aspects. And now we'll see the Shaman versus Paladin matchup, which is usually something that a Shaman is happy about. If it's going to have to line up against anything, mid-range Paladin is an okay matchup. It's like it's a very even one, and possibly even in favor of the Shaman if it runs enough devolves for the early game.
That is true, and already one devolve in the hand is available for JJ. We'll see how it goes. Bow! At turn 2, Rockpool Hunter.
Turn 2 devolve.
Most likely
I mean,
devolve.
You might try to bait the War Leader out, right? And just devolve afterwards, since you picked up a decent turn 3 play. But yeah, that could have hurt.
The Elf Elemental is not really the best option against Paladins in general. Let me just check if there's a Peacekeeper in Pavel's list, but I believe there is. So it would be actually a terrible choice. There are 2 Peacekeepers and one Equality. So paying 3 Overload, in theory, to get just, swept because of the tempo loss is not really the best option.
Yeah, unless you play a Lightning Storm in your deck and you have it in hand and you're ready to go after it, it's a pretty all-in move. And we're going to see JJ here trigger the devolve, hopefully not pick up anything bad. If he gets a Doomsayer out of that guy, okay. That's
actually pretty good outcome for Pavel.
Yeah, he gets a card drop from that little 1/1 Crystalline Oracle. Not a card you see played at all, but sometimes...
Oh my god, and the Finja and the Fire Elemental, those cards are value heavy. Especially with the follow-up by playing the Inquisitor into Megazord, allows you to just wreck everyone's faces. What is even more problematic for JJ is the fact that he can't really play a minion. I mean, he did saw a War Eater before, and one Rockpool Hunter, but still there are a lot of options to just clear up every single minion that he can play and get that Finja value. And then he's in a big pile of trouble, because he doesn't have a good way of making a comeback on the board right now. That is problematic.
Yeah, there's really nothing JJ wants to do here. I mean, he can always... I think he's not going to have much of a choice. He could go for a slower line of play, where he just doesn't play anything but the Hot Spring Guardian. But even then, you're kind of vulnerable to
the Hot Spring
Champion.
Yeah.
Then you keep your guy stealthed, Megastore with a buff, War Leader number 2. Yeah, he's going to opt to play it as slowly as he can, probably just jam the Aya next turn. That's going to give a huge window of opportunity for Pavel, though.
What is even more catastrophic for JJ is the fact that he passed a turn right before turn 6 for his opponent. That means that Pavel will be able to build up the board for the Steed, but at the same time, a lucky top deck from SuperJJ with the Volcano puts him back into the game.
Sorry, we're not allowed to say lucky top deck. We're going to go with fortunate draw here. Lothar, please correct yourself.
With a fortunate top deck, he is going back into the game.
Well done. You're hired. So JJ can now pick himself back up after this this Volcano. That really helped him come back in the game. I think the game was going to slip away from him, barring that one draw. The devolve on the follow-up could have also been amazing, to be fair. So we're looking at this, and we're very results-oriented. But there was another devolve in the deck, so 2 cards that he could have drawn really helped him come back here. He will still be on the very slow side compared to his Paladin opponent. And in those cases, when you've got the Hex, the double devolve, and the Volcano, you can afford to play slower. It's a viable line of play, because your Jades will eventually start stacking up. The problem is his Jade value is pretty much nullified at this point. He's played, what, Jade Claws? That's about it. And that is extremely low value.
It is low. And at the same time, now we play a very interesting game of actually like a chicken challenge. Who goes first? Pavel doesn't want to play his buffs on a minion before he sees a Hex, and JJ doesn't want to play the Hex before he sees a buff. So it's a stalemate, basically. And Pavel still can bait it out because he can just play a huge minion like a Rag or a Tyrion at some point, and that will allow him to buff his minion before he will see the devolve. The clutch situation here is that JJ needs to use the Hex the same turn he's able to kill the frog. If he's able to do that, he plays around the buffs and the devolve synergy.
Yeah, I like that play by Pavel here, honestly. Unorthodox, because usually you wait for, totem value with your Drake, trying to maximize the amount of stuff you kill. But in this case, you're so far ahead in terms of value in hand that you really don't mind expending this. The Shaman has no easy way to deal with a 4-8, barring that Hex, as we spoke of, or double Jade Lightning, which are setups that require a ton of involvement from the opponent, which you're okay with. If they have to commit to that stuff, you're happy. JJ here looks like he's trying to set up that Kalamos. Was looking at the Hot Spring Guardian from what I saw here as a way to start the turn.
I'm just thinking, why did he start the turn with the Think from Below? That means he didn't plan to use the Shaman hero power, but I think he changed his mind right now.
I think he was going to go for Think from Below, Hot Spring Guardian, but that means he missed a hero power in the process, right?
Yeah, because that's a hero power for 0 mana here.
Yep. A little bit of a misstep.
That can actually cost him a lot, because getting a spell power might be something that will trigger his opponent to just kill it instead of just going face, an example. The taunt minion always is good. Gives more value for the flame totems as well. So definitely a misstep here.
And now we saw the stalemate broken by that Hex play from JJ, and Pavel responds in kind with the stalemate broken. Plays the steed and doesn't expect to lose any value from it. Knows there could be another Hex or another devolve, but I don't think that's too big of an issue for him.
Yeah, the issue isn't really that big, since Curator is actually for 7 mana, and his stats are inferior. So when he gets the devolve, he might actually end up with a bigger minion than it was originally. And the same case actually goes to Primordial Drake, which is why is it so great against devolves in general and shamans in general. Kills the totem, and still it's great target for devolve.
Well, Pavel still looking strong. His hand is filled with options, so he can go for the Murloc package here, can drop Hero Power, Rockpool Hunter with the Channel Megasaur, or Sunkeeper Tarim if he wants to after that. Set up the biggest Tarim of his life. The fact that he can protect these little guys behind taunts is basically what makes the future Megasaur even more powerful here. So many taunts protecting those Murlocs, barring an AoE from JJ, and that's going to mean he's going to have Maelstrom with spell damage or Lightning Storm, which I don't even think it is in his deck.
But Kalamos with Devolve is actually a very powerful play. Oh my god.
And that's awkward.
Well, now the Kalamos is not really the best option. It kills only 2 minions. And one of the minions that remains will get a trade with the things from below, so that's definitely not something that JJ was looking into.
I feel like he's still forced to do it. If he doesn't do it, the problem is there's so much stuff on the board for Tarim to hit that you just fall apart.
But that's
you're
what
leaving yourself open to Consec and plays along those lines. So.
But this is what I was talking about, like the fact that the Curators for 7 mana did get a minion with 5 attack.
Yep, it's very frequent. It's very frequent at 6.
So it's not something that is like, really unlucky in this situation, because that should actually happen.
I think it's the Nat Peggle that's kind of unlucky, and the Nat Peggle is definitely the most unlucky part of this whole thing. Okay, not gonna take a value trade on the 2/4 here. Could have done so. That means he's not clearing, and he's just developing maximum potential board state, which is great against anything but Consecration.
It's pretty decent against Tarim, and that's actually a good call by JJ, because he saw that Pavel is going for a wide board, and that means he most likely wants to set up a good Tarim. So yeah. Good read by JJ to use the Elemental Summoner spell from Kalamos instead of just going for the AoE value here this turn.
And the cool thing too is with Flame Tongue Totem, he's also liable to extract a ton of value from these little guys. Even if we just don't think about the raw damage output, it's still a lot. And JJ, I believe, plays a Bloodlust in the deck, which is also another way to set up a kill. And Pavel will have to get worried about that right now. That's one of the things that'll be in the back of his mind is, can I really afford to let all these 1-on-1s live? Can I play my own passive game? Not really. I have to start going all in and clearing this up, because otherwise these 1-on-1s will kill me through Bloodlust.
That's pretty awkward. So,
there we
that was
go.
the Bloodlust.
That's 12 damage. So he's got a total of 16. He's got 20 damage right now if he wants to push it. A little bit dubious. I doubt he's going to do that.
But I feel like he needs to use his minions to trade, and fortunate for him, Flame Tongue Totem allows that perfectly. So not really a bad outcome, because now Pavel is in a difficult position when he needs to kill the Flaming Totem as soon as possible. Otherwise, the value given by that minion will bite him back.
Yeah. But now Pavel will not be able to read that there's a Bloodlust in the hand, because he played around it and then saw the 2 cards that were already in the hand played now, which were Flame Tongue and Jinyu. And it was only the draw last turn from JJ that turned out to be the Bloodlust. So Pavel now knows there was no Bloodlust and might assume there still is no Bloodlust, and based on that could end up running straight into it by chance.
But he gets a really neat turn by playing the Hydrologist, which allows him to trade in the future turn if he plays the Tyrion. And that's something super important. But instead, he went for the Noble Sacrifice. Interesting. So he values the Noble Sacrifice to be played around Bloodlust, I guess, because that's the value that you will get, right?
Yeah, that's about the only thing you're playing around, I believe. I mean, you're also playing around value, like you're preventing an easy way to pop the shield with just throwing the Searing Totem in first. They're just annoying the opponent at the moment. So you can't use like Searing Totem to pop and then use 1 minion plus Maelstrom Portal to finish off the Tyrion. He has to commit an extra card. And now JJ just doesn't know what to do with the secret. He's got no idea.
I mean, he didn't play the secret.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. I was complete idiocy right there. Noxious just running his mouth like never before. And here I was just thinking, oh yeah, he played the Noble Sack and protect the Tyrion. I've been following the Hydrologist all along. I completely forgot to look at the mana count.
You know, the thing is that what I was thinking is just why the reason he picked this this secret in particular is because he can play it only next turn.
Sure.
And that means, why would you do that, right? And that the only reason what comes into mind is either weapons, which JJ played one of already,
or Bloodlust, basically.
And Bloodlust. So those are the only 2 outcomes. The other options would be actually Gateway Kodo and Redemption, which I feel like would have been better in retrospect. But at the same time, he goes for a safer route, right?
The thing is, we saw 1 Hex, right?
1 Hex to Devols, yes.
Yeah, so that there could be a second Hex in that hand, because you knew it wasn't Bloodlust from having kept track of the hand. So if this is Hex, then playing for Redemption is a little bit worse in some aspects. If you play 1/1s, Maelstrom Portal ruins you. So the Redemption can be a little bit clunky against Shaman specifically, as they tend to have a way to go through it. And still no secret played here. Pavel will keep the Noble Sack until the very end. Oh man. Oh yeah, but Noble Sacrifice eats the Searing Totem. It's gonna totally work. Noxious, he didn't play the secret. Oh! Shh, don't tell chat. Well, that's actually not a bad board state for JJ. He's still able to, at least keep himself afloat. The issue is gonna be down to what, 2 minions next turn? Whenever Pavel drops 1 big bomb, that's going to be just the end of it for JJ. He's down to 1 useless card in hand that has never been able to extract any value whatsoever. And the Shaman doesn't look good once again. Seems like it's always struggling.
Yep. Plus 3 health. Well, that's awkward. after two devolves being seen, this makes it really awkward for JJ, and if you lose this game, you'll be 0-2 down. And Pavel will be left with his Taunt Warrior.
Which, frankly, against the entire lineup of JJ should be able to make something happen. If you give 3 shots to that deck, it should be able to win. I mean, Purified Priest is, fortunately for JJ, a deck that's pretty decent against Taunt Warrior. So, you know, that's one of the decks that he'll be able to pilot against it. And he's got his own Shaman, which is probably a little bit on the bad side, given that it's so slow. You can get those Bloodlust blowouts, but you don't anticipate they're going to consistently happen.
Yep. Let's now just see how this game will evolve. But in this situation, the Ragnars will just seal the deal. 30 HP for Pavel, while JJ is just sitting with the awkward Bloodlust in his hand.
Yeah, we had that happen a lot these past days. Bloodlust just sits in the Shaman hand and loses them a card at the end of the game. But it's also, on the flip side, when it is enabled, a complete backbreaker for the opponent. So the card is very high upswing when you find a way to dominate the early stages of the board control war. And against Warrior, you know, that's one of those matchups where you're actually looking to end the game with Bloodlust if you get a chance to. So you've got Devolves to just bypass the taunts, Bloodlust them, and win. So maybe this Bloodlust will do more work coming up.
True. At the same time, though, it's just a worse Savage Roar. And the problem with that is that Savage Roar still was in an awkward spot sometimes because you didn't have minions, but it could have been used as a means of just, you know, trading with your hero, because it added attack. It adds attack. While Bloodlust is only for minions, and not only is it more expensive, but it was both of those facts just make it more clunky. And we can see it definitely in Shaman, which also battles against his overload mechanic. Now we have Shaman versus Taunt Warrior. So as you explained, it's not really that bad for JJ in this situation, especially if he will be able to maintain.
He's able to maintain board presence.
Yeah, and I was like,
you want to talk about board presence, JJ? There we go. So you could coin out Manatide here because the War Axe has to be split into 2 to 3 pieces. I wouldn't even mind that line of play, even though you use up the coin early. The drawback is there's a world in which you would like to be able to coin out Water Speaker to heal up the Elemental, assuming there's no way for the opponent to kill it. So no War Axe here. If you picked up Healing Totem, it would save you. Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities into these early turns based on which totem was picked up. Unanswered Manatide? Looks like it. Oh my god, we're having flashbacks. Manatide's been so good.
Yep, they give almost infinite value here. Although, sometimes someone will play a double Manatide Totem and you'll just take advantage of that. Because it's really awkward to kill your own Manatide Totems with all the Flame Tongue Totems, and you can really overdraw easily.
And we even had an example of that yesterday, funny enough. We had Muzzy, I believe, in the HCT. Ended up getting himself a Hex on his own Manatide later in the game to prevent the card draw from burning something essential. Or that he thought was essential at that time, so that was interesting too. We've seen, it's kind of an old play where you just kill your own Manatide at all costs. And it still stands true to this day. So JJ here has the option of going for Flame Tongue into Maelstrom Portal to get himself a full board clear, I believe.
Oh, he has so many options.
He's going to be a little bit... Yeah, he's going to get it because of the spell damage totem, so... Not sure if that's the best use of your play, but I really like Maelstrom, Flame Tongue, Jade Claws. It just seems so clean at going all in on the board.
I agree, I like it as well. The armor doesn't really give much any value here. Like you're okay with your opponent getting that armor because the way you're gonna win this matchup is by overwhelming him on the board. So you just grind him out. The armor doesn't really matter. It's just about the fact that you need to get on the board and stick to it.
The Fiery War Axe does. So we're not playing Maelstrom Portal this turn.
Interesting.
At least not in the way that I had initially anticipated. It looks like it's going to be a Protect the Manatide play. Here we go. A Protect the Manatide play indeed. And we're going to go wide with the Flame Elemental. Jamming that guy out and just trying to go and keep drawing cards. And that's not wrong. I mean, the faster he draws that Bloodlust, the quicker he can end this game.
I'm kind of surprised though with the placement of the Flame Elemental. I would rather see it on the right side of the Manatide Totem just to get, you know, an upside of the Hot Spring Guardian having bigger attack. So it actually gets you back the value from the Armor Smith that the opponent did get from the previous turn. And most likely Elemental will be used to trade up in the upcoming turn.
I'm not sure why you'd put it there.
So Manatide Totem would probably still get the attack next turn, because you will sacrifice the Flame Elemental. But in this case, you get less damage on your opponent's hero. It doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, it's just an interesting way of setting it up. Because now he also he won't be able to get the synergy with his totem hero power.
I mean, he could have even put it just on the right of the Hot Spring Guardian if he wanted, so that the opponent, you know, at least has to go through the big taunt first, even if we're not talking about Manatide being involved here. Interesting. And now he's going to go for the second Manatide, interestingly enough, and get himself another wave of card draw. And Pavel's actually falling behind in cards. Luckily for him, Curator will fetch a Primordial Drake to try to reset this board back to its original state.
Well, this draw is important. He's getting 2 cards, a Beast and the Dragon. No Murlocs in that deck. He will be able to get a little bit back of the card advantage that he lost because of the Manatide Totem, but the second one is just horrible for Pavel.
Yeah, and there's so few plays in the Warrior deck that will be able to deal with that Manatide while developing good tempo. You need Fire War Axe plus a 5-drop. It's so clunky to find the right draw. Primordial Drake twice can do it, but it's going to take 2 turns. That Manatide has been accumulating value over and over and over, and that's like an amazing Hex target for JJ here.
Now he has Hex for days. 2 Hexes and a Devolve. So basically he denies almost every single minion that his opponent will play, and gives tempo for JJ as well. Super important.
So we're just drawing Bloodlust. We're just trying to draw Bloodlust. Effectively, that's what I hear when I see this guy just healing his Manatides nonstop. He's like, I want my Jades, I want my Bloodlust. We need to close out this game as early as possible.
Fortunately for Pavel, Whirlwind appears and deals the crucial 1 more damage to that Manatide Totem, but still, Pavel is in a top spot. The card advantage that those 2 Manatide Totems generated is backbreaking. Almost literally. Alright, well...
Like, no amount of Ragnaros hero power shots will ever catch this up, I don't think. So right now, Pavel's on board clear plan. We're talking brawls and everything. Barring brawls, I think Pavel will simply start falling behind way too much and eventually just die off the minion pressure. The fact that his opponent drew, what, like 7 cards means that he's got infinite refills.
Well, that was a better Dirty Rat than it was in the beginning. In this situation, Pavel is able to pop the quest. The problem is that he loses the armor generation in the process, but will allow him to climb back a little bit in the tempo.
That's the hope he's got at this point. And we'll see JJ here immediately devolve, trying to negate all the taunts on the board. And that is going to be taunt denial. Leave a 0-4 and a 2-1 on the board. We're good to go.
Dirty Rat is one of the worst possible cards to get devolved.
Yeah, it's one of the best 2-drops, and loses the most stats and abilities, I think, of most of the cards that exist in the game.
Well, the IL seems to be a very risky play. If your opponent would get the lucky shot with his Rag Hero Power, or just trade and then play Brawl, that wouldn't be the best choice. You have not a lot of options to refill at that point.
Yeah, really like the decision to hold it here. I mean, he hovered over it. Could have made the call to just go all in on it. Oh, nice rag shot, Pavel. Kill the totem. 0-8.
to be fair, he's on a disadvantage for the entire game, and that's it. No armor generation, 12 damage standing on the board, and that will be enough for Pavel to lose the first game in this match. Still is in the lead, 2-1 against JJ, and now JJ needs to reverse sweep that Taunt Warrior, which is to be perceived as one of the most powerful decks in the entire metagame.
Yeah, I'm not so sure it's that good against Miracle Rogue and Purified Priest, though. I'll be honest with you, I feel like those are the two decks that probably just run all over it. I mean, I would say so based on personal experience. I know Silence Priest got a good matchup against it. It's not as big as, against J-Druid, let's say, because Warrior at least has the edge of, or the ability to execute your guys. And, if they do that, then it's a little bit trickier. But if you pace your buffs correctly, the Purified Priest can go through a ton of minions. And the fact that he's playing Shadow Word Pain in the list means that he's also able to attack against Bloodhoof Brave, which is important, and Ali Armorsmith, which is also great.
Mm-hmm. True. All right. Well, there's the Humongous Razor Leaf in the opening hand. You could argue that's the most important card to get. What's your opinion about it?
I think it is in the matchup. I mean, it's in just about every single matchup it's going to be the best, unless you're playing up against a deck that is going to be able to punish you, like sap-based Miracle Rogue lists. Like, those will just wreck you anyway, so you might as well just get Norshires, Radiant Elementals, get those guys buffed up. But Humongous is still pretty strong against them. I really like Purified Priest, probably one of the decks that I've played the most of. And now Pavel's considering jamming that Dirty Rat. I mean, it seems tempting, since what could go wrong? Oh, he's going to go for the Acolyte and play a little bit more safely. Wonder if we'll see a reply with JJ's own Acolyte or Shadow Word Pain. Or, Humongous. I don't like Humongous because it plays into Execute really hard, but...
It does, but at the same time, it will always be playing into an Execute, right? You have to bait out the Execute before you buff it, or at least, you just try to intimidate your opponent with a Silence on it, and just attack with a 3/8 instead. So you know that the opponent is in a position when he's aware that every single turn from now on, the minion can be buffed and attack immediately. And that requires an Execute, basically.
And JJ has the Humongous, and he has the Faceless Shambler. No silences for the Humongous Razor Leaf, but that is still a man that demands an answer sooner rather than later. We saw Pavel not really go for the quest plan early, because that's not what it comes down to. What matters the most is execute the priest minions, and then you've won. If you just do that, you win the game. There is no need to start worrying about getting that rag shot as early as possible, because if you're losing the game by the point a rag shot matters, you're going to get punished. And that is the best case scenario for JJ with 2 Shamblers in hand. This could have been a disaster.
That was actually nasty. Getting an Acolyte of Pain, not only it allows him to save those Shamblers, but also, crucial, allows him to get additional card draw this turn for 0 mana. That's absolutely insane, especially when you have Radiant Elemental, and you can just go off in the next turns.
What is Eldine's will?
A Purify is found for the Humongous Razor Leaf here. JJ's going to have to ponder how much getting executed is worth. That's the price you pay if you play the Purify this turn.
Yep.
Price you pay is you might be getting yourself like a massive 8/8, for instance, which isn't even that big. You could make it a 16/16 if you wanted. Sorry, 12/12 if you wanted. But the issue with that is Execute just literally shuts down the 2 Shamblers. It strands them in your hand, and then you've got nothing left. But if there had been an Execute, would you have seen it? And I think there's a good chance that you might have, so... Tough call, but I'd opt for the slightly slower play.
I like it as well. You're not really that hurting in the process here. But that Radiant Elemental, I don't know about it. Like, I don't like playing Radiant Elemental when you know that you have still so many synergies with it, You play it as a vanilla 2/3, and what it does it just gets you 1 net mana next turn. Sorry, 2 net mana next turn for spell generation, and you only have 1 card in your hand, no Lyra, and the Acolyte of Pain. But most likely the red elemental will have the red dot on its head and will get killed as soon as possible, which is kind of okay with because of that fact the Humongous Razorleaf will live. But look at that. What just happened here?
Yeah, this was the best clear that I think Pavel could have. Doesn't even need Brawl, doesn't even need Execute. On the flip side, also gives a ton of card draw to JJ, based on the fact that the Acolyte got pulled for free with the Dirty Rat. Also uses a few AoEs on it, so that's 2 draws that JJ ended up getting. And he picks up 2 Purified targets, or silenceable targets, which is effectively what he's looking for in this deck. Let's see how he chooses to play them out, though. That's the big question.
Interesting. Alright, well, now he needs to get back on the board, and the easiest way would be to, I guess, wait 1 turn with the Humongous Razorleaf and then just play the Shambler. But then this turn kinda sucks.
Do you ever just Ancient Watcher, Faceless Shambler to get started?
Doesn't
sound
like that's super efficient, but at least do something this turn, and I think that's needed.
Yeah, I think just getting the tempo of the 4/5 on the board and the threat of this 4/5 growing, right, is a pretty big deal. Like, you pick up Power Shield off the draw, suddenly you have an enabled Ancient Watcher at 7 health, buff it up to 14, and then you're swinging for a ton. So over a few turns, this might be just the best offer that JJ gets on the table for a while.
I agree. Well, it still looks good for JJ. He is outvaluing. He has bigger card advantage than Pavel. I mean, he's actually in the advantage when it comes to the cards, and he still has options to draw more, which is fantastic. But the problem is he didn't see a single Brawl yet, so he has to think about the fact that he can't really overextend at any given point in the game unless he wins the same turn. So does this setup allow him to do that? Because he can buff his minion to 16 attack. That's still not enough, because that's 24 damage, and his opponent is at 30 this time.
You'd have to get multiple silences too, like with everything. So as it stands, it looks like Pavel's just trying to set up the greediest Brawl in history. After having seen a Shadow Word Ping, he's definitely feeling a lot safer about it. I'm kind of hoping JJ doesn't go for the Radiant Elemental, because you can wait a little bit longer before you pull the trigger on that guy, I think. Like, you can wait until you pick up like a Lyra turn. That's still
that would be amazing.
Here. So definitely wait a little bit longer.
That's good as well. But I would probably start with just the Cleric. Attack with one of the minions, heal it back, see what you get. You're still able to play Acolyte on top of that, but at the same time, because it's before turn 8, right? So it would be good to play the Acolyte of Pain before Primordial Drake turn. But at the same time, adding the Acolyte and the Cleric on the board plays directly into the Brawl, gives more options to good outcomes for Pavel.
Really like the play that JJ chose to make here. So it seems kind of weird because he's got the combo pieces, but this is a matchup where you're ideally looking to push for as much as possible in one fell swoop, instead of waiting and spacing out your damage. So keeping double Divine Spirit is probably the way to go. And this matchup can come down to any one minion that's around.
And that's the problem with overextending the Brawl. In this turn, the honor of extending here was actually playing the Cleric, which is understandable because you still have, like, let's say, good odds of getting decent minion. But at the same time, you can't play around second. Oh my God! Against second Druid. Let's change the topic. Lyra.
All right, Power Shield, ladies and gents. Let's fetch the value. Let's go. There's another Power Shield in there, right?
Yeah, you go for the Shadow Vision 100% right now, because you will be lacking time if you will wait. There's a Power Shield.
Good to go. I like that. I mean, that's an extra card you draw. You give 2 health to your guy. You can also buff it with Divine Spirit afterwards. You've got the Inner Fire. Sure, Binding Heal. It's an extra draw I can use for later. No problem. Let's go.
Oh, even not right now, you get a cycle.
Yeah.
Fold Seal, amazing card as well. I think like you should go for the Divine Spirit right now this turn.
I agree with that. I would even put it on the Lyra to be very, very safe, clearly. I mean, you could split your health buffs to make sure that you get less punished by Execute, which I think is the reason why he's doing this. But at the end of the day, you could just go all in on a single minion and get away with it very often against Warrior. At this point, you've seen a Brawl, you've seen an Execute. I think it works out in your favor a sizable chunk of the time.
All right.
Oh, man. Okay.
That was a fantastic turn for JJ. The Lyra allowed him to make a comeback.
Wait. Can anybody talk about Master Spell for a second? Like, I didn't really highlight it because it's one of those spells you get that you just don't like, but it's basically Devolve in this matchup, where you just get... If you need to get multiple taunts out of the way instead of just one, like this Silence allows him to do, sometimes it just wins you...
I mean,
okay, that Drake is
in this
definitely
case, he had already
right
2 silences, so it's not really that big of a deal, right? But at least he gets a card draw, so that's something. Oh my god! Tentacles!
Another? Sure, let's get extra 6 health on one guy.
So how much damage can he do? That's 13, 16, 32?
He's got it with Divine Spirit, I think.
He should be able to do it.
I'm pretty sure he's got it, because that's a total of 32 with just 1 minion and then the extra 3. He might be missing like a single well, never mind. He's got it. That's it. The Cabal Talon Priest gives it. That's 38 damage in one single minion. Oh,
that's a lot of damage.
God, thanks, Purify Priest.
Well,
Nailed it.
That's what you get when you have a Lyra turn. That is actually insane.
And they said Mike Donay didn't know how to evaluate his own priest cards. They said Lyra was bad.
And Lyra would probably not be as powerful without the Radiant Elemental, but with that second card, it's actually pretty nuts.
Yeah, and it set up a win opportunity there for JJ, which I think looked like he might have been a little bit behind after that brawl. And we saw the caution in the Senate. We said, well, there's probably going to need to be a Radiant Elemental Lyra turn. He did pull the trigger on the refueling. You know, he kept the Radiant for the post-brawl setup where the brawl came down, he lost his board, he ended up getting completely shut down, then played Radiant with all the buffs. Didn't need Lyra. Like, on paper, his game plan did not involve Lyra, but he still found it and ended up doing even more with this.
Yep. What a crazy game. Absolutely lunatic.
Sharazin, pretty cool card in the matchup with a dagger hit, can clean up Bloodhoof Braves, so lines up very nicely with some of the stuff that they do. Fan and I, Sleep with the Fishes.
Oh well, Sleep with the Fishes seems like a okay card, but at the same time,
2-mana spell, dude. Like 2-mana spell. Right.
I like Breast Knuckles, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, they give you a lot of value on that Auctioneer. The Sharazin, unfortunately, doesn't, let's say, transfer over the buffs.
Fair enough.
Well,
Fool's Bane gives him a lot more gameplay against a lot more game that is against taunt minions, where he's able to clean up like a 3/6 with just 2 hits of his own.
He's able also to kill Acolytes of Pain and still kill something else. Defenders and 2 attacks, which is okay, I would say.
Yeah, it's a little bit like weapons and rogue tend to be very clunky because you already have a weapon baseline. But this is the type of weapon where you're extracting value to guarantee to push face with Cold Blood, so I don't even mind the option. I think it's still better than Brass Knuckles, but I don't know why, but I would have been inclined to take Sleep with the Fishes. In many respects, I think you're going to find a way to use it in the matchup.
I agree. Alright, well, those cards are not really the best. Like, in this particular matchup, you want to have cards that have a lot of pressure. Tarlord is the exact opposite. What it does, though, is allows you to hide behind him a minion that generates pressure, like Gazetan, like Archon-Giant, an example, and Pavel will be required to have an answer to that, and that's kind of awkward. because you can use your minions, just attack into it. But for now, there's little to no value in that Tarlord. And with that,
Look at that.
patches as well.
This is exactly what Foolsbane was setting up to do. Deals with
Mhm.
3 minions with 3 swings. Sure, in the process, you end up losing a sizable amount of health, but if you're able to just guarantee the board is clean when you get that Auctioneer out, you're going to be a lot safer with it than otherwise. And it's a really good setup play here.
Yeah, I agree.
Extremely good setup play.
Looked really good. Although 9 damage out of 2 minions, which is not bad for Pavel, because he knows that he can just push his opponent to lose that health in the process and just finish off the game, because that's it. Rogue will have never a possibility to gain armor again. There are no more Spursburgers, there are no more hallucinations, so whatever damage you'll deal, you will actually do it permanently and be closer to finish up the game.
Now JJ probably will be forced into committing this Auctioneer. Unless he wants to play it slowly, get the extra Razor Petal for the extra card draw. But that means he has to play slowly this turn. So he'd have to go for like Blood Mage into Razor Petal into Patches, which doesn't guarantee a body. And then because you're 1 card away from reviving Sherazin, you're tempted to use the Backstab early. So that's a really odd turn for Rogue. I think you're... So 1, 2. You could play Razor Petal alone, right? You could go Blood Mage, Razor Petal, and just get the Patches out for the 4-card revive. All right, fair enough. We can then kill the 3/5.
That's good enough.
Hit. Razor Petal acts as a weapon hit in this case. And you're before turn 8, importantly, right? You're before turn 8, so these guys live through the potential of a Drake, which is also one of the cards that is most commonly found in
Fair point.
just warrior decks for 8. So the question is,
I feel like
Patches versus something else.
I feel like Eviscerate will be better here because you can just kill all the Armor Smith or the Armor Smith itself. And
so you're not reviving Sherazin.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the one thing I dislike.
Okay.
Because why wouldn't you just go for the backstab and kill the other minion and get Sherazin back? Because when I was thinking about Eviscerate, I was thinking about backstab as well.
So that means he's probably just playing Tarlord next turn. His next turn probably does not involve Gadatan if that's the line he's taking, does it? I mean, even less so now, given the damage minions and the double backstab in hand. He's going to be looking to float more mana, I think, just based on the way that he's played this out. Alright, so last turn was a little bit of a weird one for me. I really valued the 5/3 on the board more than maybe JJ did. I think he just doesn't value it because the weapon charge is, checking it. And in that case, I kind of understand where he's coming from. There's still a little value to extract from the spells in hand now.
Yeah, but at the same time, you probably will get another resurrection because you have the Gadatan in your hand.
Yeah, you get 2 of them, right? So you draw the charge out, and you get an extra 5/3 afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So, still, we'll see how it goes. It's a complicated, let's say, complicated turn to play ahead, right? You can't really think about every single outcome, like what can happen here, because it's way too complicated. Is he able to play the Archon Giant?
No, not this turn.
Well, he can try backstab his own minion, and that's about it. Maybe he gets hallucination.
He's already played 2 of those.
Yeah, he already played 2. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. Cold Blood, maybe? Cold Blood might have...
Yeah, Cold Blood could have been good, but at the same time, you don't want to play a Cold Blood in this situation anyway, so...
To be fair, though, JJ is going to be able to swing back in the game with the Vile Spine Slayers if he lives long enough. Those are huge cards in the matchup. You can just take out any minion, no matter its size. And the Tarlord can soak up some rack shots, can soak up some of the attacks from the enemy. So, yeah, that can change the turn that this game takes just because of the Vile Spines.
The Slayers are just insane in this matchup. The same goes for the Jade Druid matchup. Because they can just swing from Jade Blossoms and Jade Idols, which are not that huge tempo swing, but at the same time, they allow you to put a minion that has 4 HP on the board, which is super problematic for Druid to deal with. And those small minions can actually matter in the race. Alright, well, you can just go for Archon Giant into Slayer.
Honestly, that just seems so clean to me. There's no need to commit more to that. You're keeping a lot of low-cost cards in your hand for the potential Edwin. So that's the only other line that makes any sense, is just letting the Drake live and then Edwinning huge this turn. But you're just giving them an execute if you're committing to that, right? So that's what it comes down to for me. I really like the Arcane Giant. It sets up such a huge swing.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he might still be committing to it with the 4-card play where he goes Razor Petal, Spell, Backstab. So Backstab, Spell, a Giant.
So he wants to
free.
get Sharaz
For one,
right?
sorry. Yeah, that'd probably be it. He just wants to Sharazin at this point if he does this.
And I like this as well. He loses the Backstab, but gaining the Sharazin will help a lot. We're putting up the pressure here. So
Yeah.
I really like this.
It kind of doubles up as an Arcane Giant.
Yeah. Alright, what will Pavel do? Wilhelm Scream? No, not yet.
And now that War Axe is getting value on a recurrent minion that's going to come back out if there's another way to enable it. Feels kind of bad, but at least you're mitigating the damage output that's immediately available to the rogue, and that's something you need to do, because you win the long game anyway if things last. So all you need to do is make sure that this Sharazin does not get too much work done. And JJ's got the options, man. He's got them. He's got them all.
That is so much pressure. But still, in JJ's mind, a single brawl was not yet seen. And Pavel is getting deeper and deeper into the deck. Overloading the board will probably cause the same outcome as last time, but fortunately for him, he had the ladder to make a comeback. But without the ladder, it could have been, a huge problem, and then maybe he just would end up the match already. Here, he has to play around it as well. So it's a very tough situation to exactly know what to do. Oh,
he's familiar enough with it, right? Like getting the free Arcane Giant for him is probably something he values. So the card draw, that was the least, to me, that was the least obvious opener. But I'm guessing it just sets up for the Vile Spine Slayer Giant turn instead of the Edwin. Just seems that way. He wants to get those 4 cards out again, I think, and he just picked up the Swashbuckler if he doesn't want to use patches for whatever reason. Okay, we'll not go for Giant Swashbucklers. We're holding on to that Sharazin value. Again,
so
the Brawl is on his mind.
Exactly. Which is not bad. I actually like this line of play. But at the same time, he'll never get the info. Is there a Brawl in the hand or not? Because I would not play Brawl in this situation when you can just finish up the quest and kill minions, right? So it
that's a face hit.
Oh my god.
StarLord, hello. We're counting on you. So we either end the game now or we get ended on the Brawl.
Well, he's gonna get Ironhide, which will put him on 8. Aliamo Smith, not bad as well.
If he lives one turn, he's alive for the entire game, basically. So he's thinking, I'm dead to Brawl, I'm dead to execute plays. And that is just the nature of the Taunt Warrior archetype.
Well, the problem is, a single ghoul finishes up the game. Primordial Drake into execute finishes up the game. And
get more stuff on the board, man. Get all the stuff. Play into Brawl, doesn't matter, you gotta do it.
Yep. We know it's the end, but he doesn't know it and plays the turn correctly. But that's about it. There's the ghoul even. You can use that, Pavel. Use that one. It's tilting.
Use the top deck. I mean, it's not like JJ gets to play again anyway, but you go Drake, execute. You seem like you've planned this all along, and the weapon's gonna swing face. No RNG involved in that one. Besides the one rack shot that went face in 17 and set up a lethal for Pavel. Aside from that, it was all calculated, and Pavel's gonna take it 3-2 over JJ, who is going to, unfortunately, I believe, be left at 2-4, I believe, right now, right?
Well, JJ now is at 2-5, actually. That was his last match, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, well, that's even worse. Doesn't even get the fight for tiebreaker, so his life in the StarLadder event is effectively ended.
The situation in Group B was that the 4th place will be actually, most likely, someone with 3 wins, but in this situation, Pavel has the option still to win one more match and go with the 4 wins, and then he takes it. Because other players were always on 3 or 2 wins. And that's about it. But Pavel is the only player left with 2 matches, and he can get 2 wins, and he's on the way there. So
yeah, that's the closest he's getting compared to the other players who are stuck in the middle of the pack. We see Kalento there at 3-4. Pavel can get himself another win and get 4-3, which means he would pass Kalento to take that 4th slot in the bracket. So Kalento is effectively on one last chance here, one last hope, and that is that Pavel ends up losing to Stan Sivka.
And then it's all about head-to-head. We should actually ask the admins what's the outcome of that, just to know. But I feel like, well, I don't want to lie. So we're going to wait just for confirmation. But the head-to-head will be important in this situation when there will be few players with the same outcome.
All right. So we'll be taking a short break, guys, before we come back with the next match of the day. We've got 6-0 playing, I believe, against Dice next up. And that means that 6-0's, I wouldn't say tournament line, but this is one of the most important matches for both of these players in the event. And since they're both extremely strong players, since I haven't seen Dice play in StarLadder for a little bit now, I'm excited. So, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.